This is the HomePod. It's Apple's first entry into an already crowded marketplace of smart speakers. In other words, what they've done is taken the digital assistant Siri and they put it in a standalone speaker, which means that you can do things like ask it, "Hey Siri, play some of my favorite songs."
Here's your favorites mix.
Or, "Hey Siri, set a timer for 15 minutes.
15 minutes and counting.
It also means that it's directly competing with this, or rather this, and then there's this, or probably most of all with this. But at $4.99 Australian, the HomePod's pricing puts it in a bracket of smart speaker where it is virtually alone. It focuses on high-end audio to entice consumers to want to buy the thing. So let's start with that first, because the HomePod sounds incredible.
I got loyalty, got royalty inside my DNA.
Crammed inside this thing is an impressive array of 7 tweeters, 1 subwoofer, and what I can only describe as being true high-quality, room-filling sound, which I know sounds like a load of wank. This single HomePod has no issue holding its own against high-end home audio systems. Comparing it to my own Sonos home theatre setup, which sets back about 2,500 Australian, there were tracks that I actually preferred the bass and the sound coming out of this than all of that. Getting the sound to it, on the other hand, that's when things start getting just a little bit fuzzy. The HomePod's intrinsically linked with Apple Music and Siri, which means getting music to play on it is just as simple as asking it to do so. "Hey Siri, play me the latest track by Muse."
Okay, playing Thought Contagion by Muse.
The only downside to that being that, of course, you need a subscription to Apple Music, and unlike other smart speakers, the HomePod isn't going to open itself up to allow things like Spotify or TuneIn into it anytime soon. There is another way to get audio to the HomePod though, but you'll need an iOS device or a Mac to do so. The HomePod supports AirPlay, which allows you to stream audio to it over your home Wi-Fi from virtually any app or source, but then that device needs to be on, it needs to be charged, and it needs to be running to do it. The HomePod is also supposed to support AirPlay too. The new version allows multi-room audio so that different audio can be streamed to different HomePods at the same time, or 2 HomePods in different rooms can play the same thing together. In other words, exactly the same thing as what Sonos have been doing for years, but Apple haven't been able to get it ready in time, and there's this giant question mark over when it's actually going to be ready. That's not the only thing that's missing from the HomePod either. It's also supposed to be able to detect another HomePod that's in the same room and create a stereo pair. But just like AirPlay 2, Apple have just said that that's coming and we don't really know when. Beyond its audio offerings, the HomePod is really nothing more than an omnipresent Siri, and that in its own right is fraught with issues. For a start, Siri's pretty crap. Yeah, I can ask it to set me a reminder how to say "where is the bathroom" in Mandarin, but that doesn't make up for its lack of integration and connectivity to third-party devices and services. Google, and even more so Amazon, have Apple way more than covered here. It also feels just a little over-engineered in places. Take its touch control surface, for example. Underneath a beautiful OLED display comes to life when the HomePod is activated, and it also serves as the device's volume controls. But just like any other touch surface, it suffers the same fate, with fingerprints becoming an issue and obviously no tactile feedback. It could have easily been replaced with just a simple couple of buttons and a nice LED that activates, and lowered the price of the HomePod into a more palatable range. With that in mind, as impressive as the HomePod is, recommending it is just a little hard to do. For many, Amazon's Echo Dot will provide all of the functionality that you need and plug into an existing set of speakers that you already own at a fraction of the price. For others, Sonos's new Sonos One speaker with the agnostic approach to both voice and music services will suit them better, will still be cheaper, but it won't sound just quite as good. A lot of it will come down to your own personal situation and what you want out of a smart speaker. If it's to control smart home devices, then Apple's HomeKit just does not cut it. If it's as a home audio system, on the other hand, this is fantastic, but it's limited due to Apple's walled ecosystem. For those of you already living inside of the walls, the HomePod will complement your system very nicely. It looks great, it sounds amazing, and it has the best far-field microphones of any smart speaker that I've used to date. But then it would want all of that for what this thing costs.